the intruder by undressing it and make it vulnerable and being recycled. So it goes far beyond just from the external defense. We can have defense inside our cells if our enzymes in a good condition. And this is where adenosine and guanosine phosphate goes a long way. And again, I don't have to put claim on the Life Crystal drink because it's well known what adenosine and guanosine does, and it's in there. That's the major components. Going a step further, I wanted to know how the whole system is working, the evolution of the sex cells as I was studying the function of the germ cells. In vitro, placing a human or an animal spermatozoa, most of my work I was doing with horse spermatozoa because they're larger and it's easier to document it, videotape it. Placing them into life crystal. Life crystal has the life-giving ATP. Now, I must mention also that life crystal, when depolarizing the water, it's not only depolarizing the water, but giving the water a tetrahedral crystal structure, which is responsible for picking up free energy. And without free energy, life cannot exist. So it becomes a live water. But life crystal itself is tetrahedral. And if you look at a section of the pyramid, tetrahedral pyramid of each grain of life crystal, there is a vortex going through the center. And when a proton gradient pumping electrons through that microtubules, it will generate a toroidal field. Because the base of the pyramid and the tip of the pyramid, the field is weaker but larger in the bottom and stronger and smaller in the top. So it creates a vortex field. And the crystals around the pyramid of life crystals will deposit in a vortex pattern. So life crystal really has a vortex structures, as I have it on the cover of this book. That is the reason life crystal can tap into the energy of creation and pass it on to the water, to energize the water. But going either further, a step further, life crystal itself, not only depolarizing, but actually breaking down light. Breaking down light to the breath of creation, changing the wavelength of the photon. This is why I'm able to make the photograph. This is why I have done microscopic work nobody else ever been able to do. Because I'm showing all the factories and all the assembly lines inside of our cells. And that is the reason for it. Now, light will not come through. Now, the only time light comes through on life crystal if you wet it. Because the water will absorb the energy and let the light through. Now going back to the spermatozoa in the life crystal solution, the head will separate from the tail and become two independent life. Because the head no longer dependent on the spiral mitochondria providing the ATP. Because there is more ATP in life crystal and much higher energy level. Immediately they begin to glow. Any genetic material in the pure life crystal solution, it will glow because there's so much energy there and it's beefing up the genetic process. The head of the spermatozoa starts swimming and even attacking any bacteria which gets into the culture. They're even attacking mildew if it gets into the culture and destroying it. Especially the horse primordial cell, which is also produced by the way, the head of the spermatozoa. Now, the head of the spermatozoa in life crystal, because the energy level available, begins to proliferate by itself. An entirely new way to proliferate and reproduce itself. But then goes far beyond than that, because these heads, individual life, forms. They sporulate each other. And one becomes pregnant and opens up like a walnut to two halves and giving birth to a primordial cell. Taking this primordial cell now, I place it into a new culture, and the new germicidal center will evolve to produce germ cells or produce the 3 layers of the skin, the endotherm, the mesoderm, and exotherm. Now, depending whether your process is going forward or reverse, depending on the energy level, what you are providing, which directly related to the concentration of the life crystal and the ATP, GTP gradients. They are intelligent and they are communicating with each other. I took the head apart and lifted out the nucleus, which I believe originates from the Sertoli cells, because also have 2 satellite nucleus, and with the cytoplasm and the centriole. And I domesticated them into a factory, producing histones and DNAs, individual histones and individual 2-strand DNA wrapped around the histone, dispersed genetic material, which then, of course, become part of the erector set to reproduce genetic materials of various forms. I want to insert here at this point that I was doing a lot of work with genetic material, crystallizing them, because the genetic materials contains the information. And I was able to make chromosomes, which is also shown in this book, chromosomes that are identical to the human chromosomes. But they're crystal. They're not alive, because the breath of creation, the breath of God is missing. So every time when you want to recreate life, you're really not creating, you're replicating. But if you want to create, you can't, because it will be lifeless. So the breath of life always has to be there. Going back to the primordial soup, which has been produced by life crystal, let's see what the tail is doing. The tail is an independent life as well, with the spiral mitochondria at one end. And right below the spiral mitochondria, there are granules of the leftover degenerated ancient cytoplasm, which has been contributed by the Sertoli cells. In biochemical books, every institution will teach you that when from the spermatogonia, a primary and secondary spermatocytes evolve or differentiate. Actually, they're splitting, and they evolve into the spermatid. The spermatid gets into the folds of the cytoplasm of the Sertoli cell, because the Sertoli cell is a nursing cell. It's not true. They're mating. The Sertoli cell is delivering genetic material to the spermatid and contributing the tail. Because when I raise them without the Sertoli cell, no tail will evolve, only the head. And the head will proliferate. Now, when we look at the tail, the ancient cytoplasm, I believe, came from the primitive Sertoli cells, was contributed by them. But it's only the remnants is there. And since they are in the life crystal, they're alive. And of course, the ATP and GTP in the solution will provide the energy for rejuvenation, and the ancient cytoplasm comes back to life, fully evolving, restoring all the basal bodies, the centrioles, the cytoplasm, the protein production. And I domesticated the tail to produce histones.